Innovations and creativity in science, engineering, technology, and math will be the drivers of tomorrow's economy.
Jobs, 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 jobs.
Jobs. That's the word in 4 letters. Jobs.
Also, don't get caught up in just the word jobs. I know that there is this huge push for entrepreneurship and doing your thing. And hey, I'm not against it. I'm completely for it. Of course, financial independence, right? A lot of people want to do it, but I think that in order to get there, you're going to start working for somebody else to learn the ropes and learn how the industry works and how to market yourself and stuff. And so that's just one way to do it. Obviously, it's not the way. There's multiple ways you can get to financial independence, which is, to be completely honest, the goal of many people. But don't get caught up in just jobs. And just because you're going to be an engineer or just because you're going to go into a STEM field, it doesn't mean that you're going to be working for someone forever, unless that's your decision. And of course, there's nothing wrong with that.
And if you are not a participant on that frontier, you will trail behind it and possibly get left behind entirely.
Most American kids opt out of the harder math and science classes, as you know.
So I think most people opt out of hard things.
And many of those jobs that pay $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, you need a lot of calculus.
You do.
You need math.
You do.
You need science. You need physics.
That is true. That I think that a lot of people really shy away from the hard sciences, right? Like the core, when I mean science, I mean, when it comes to engineering and STEM, obviously you're talking about chemistry, biology, and physics, right? We're talking about nothing else. And so I think that it can be people can shy away from it, and it can be very scary, right? It can be scary to someone that maybe is really not that good at math or really not that good at physics. And then you're looking at problems from someone that is a senior in engineering school, or you're looking at problems for someone that is a junior in engineering school, and you're looking at all these crazy formulas, you're looking at all these crazy lab projects and everything they're doing. And so it's about the little steps that you take to get to those complex problems that you see. Like when you start looking into physics and all these like calculus-based physics problems, you're not going to go from knowing nothing about physics to solving all these like really crazy problems. So you're going to go step by step, and then it's the step by step that really hardens you. It makes you a little tough. It makes you tougher per se. And then you have the ability and the tools and the confidence to go and tackle those very big complex issues. And so don't be discouraged when you see these huge problems of math or physics or any engineering class and it takes up the whole board, so don't be discouraged by that. So I just wanted to point that out before we keep going.
Math needs better marketing. I don't know how to do it. Hire a marketing firm or something.
Business idea.
There are people who say, I'll never need this math, these trig identities from 10th grade or 11th grade, or maybe you never learned them. Here's the catch. Whether or not you ever again use the math that you learned in school, the act of having learned the math established a wiring in your brain that didn't exist before. And it's the wiring in your brain that makes you the problem solver.
Why did you become a scientist?
Since age 9, the universe chose me.
I didn't choose the universe chose me. But anyway, he's great though. I want to say that. But anyway, so when it comes to what he's just saying about how when you learn about these tough subjects, they really rewire your brain and help you think a little more differently than other people. I completely understand that, and I completely agree with him, of course. And I think like that's one of the reasons why engineers are highly valuable or highly sought after when it comes to, any industry, really. Of course, if you're in aerospace, your aerospace industry and the respective industries per se. And the reason why that is because engineers are very analytical, or at least we generally tend to be analytical. We tend to ask questions of why, how, what, and not only that, but we're pretty logical. Like we are data driven, and we go by what makes sense. So we're pretty straightforward. Like when you read a technical report from an engineer, if it's well written, like this is the data, or this is the problem, this is the procedure, the process, this is all the data, the collection, this is all the analysis, this is the conclusion, and they give you a short summary. This is the bottom line, right? So like fairly simple. And so I think that this ability to analyze and look at something in different ways and just coming up with a solution to a certain problem, I think that it's very, very common amongst engineers, but it may not be too common when you start adding other fields. I think that it's just something that something special that engineers, at least in my opinion, have. And I want to say also perhaps like anyone in STEM fields.
And a first visit to the local planetarium, the Hayden Planetarium in New York City. Ever since then, had you asked me what I want to be when I grow up, that annoying question that adults always ask, I would have said an astrophysicist.
So there's a value to students studying math and science at high levels, even if they don't want to be running the Hayden Planetarium.
Even if you don't want to become a scientist, minimum you should ask of yourself, demand of yourself, is that you become scientifically literate. Better yet, scientifically literate and mathematically literate.
Why?
Because therein are the engines of problem solving in the world.
How does that connect to jobs and the bottom line, which is money?
Now you're valuable to an employer because companies want to innovate. And the companies that don't innovate, they wither on the vine. So the connection between STEM fields and financial stability of a nation is what needs to be established. That connection somehow is broken. People don't see it.
Why don't Americans see it, the connection?
Dare I say that maybe we're not trained to think that way? We're trained to think if you do A, then there must be B, cause and effect.
Do you think Americans understand that chain of events?
No.
Are they starting to?
No. You should be educated. And in the education, you should value science, engineering, technology, and math. If you do so, you get to innovate and invent new industries, new economies. If you invent new economies, everybody has jobs tomorrow. That's a chain of events. That's not A equals B. You've got to go through 3 other variables to get to D.
All right. So there's a couple of things, 2 more things that I quickly want to mention before we close out of the video. So the first one is when it comes to STEM fields and learning these subjects, right? Like we're talking about engineers per se. And we're talking about engineering classes. And one of the things that engineers are trained to do is to come up with solutions. We are naturally, or we're not naturally, but we are trained to be problem solvers. So what that means is, and this is something that I encourage you to do when you join the workforce or even in your own life. A lot of times we focus too much on the problem. And don't get me wrong, identifying the problem properly is very, very important. However, just as important is coming up with solutions to stop complaining and drowning and then coming up with solutions to the problem. I actually made a video a long time ago on how I actually learned this lesson from working on my car with a friend, with an electrical engineer. And we were just kind of like installing a stereo, and he was telling me every time we would run into an issue, he would just stand by, cross his hands and say, hey, okay, we got a problem here. We just gonna troubleshoot. We found the problem. What is the solution? And so this is something that I want you to take away from this video. If you're gonna take anything away from here, make sure that whenever you have a problem, always ask yourself, okay, I have a problem. Now, what is the solution? What can I do to solve this problem? Or at least what can I do to alleviate or mitigate the damage that this problem is causing? And this is just a life lesson, something that you can apply not just in your engineering career, not just in a school, but also in life, because you're going to be running into issues. Life has a lot of problems, man. So make sure you take that away. And the final thing that I want to mention here in this video is the reason I think people either don't want to go into engineering or they shy away from not just engineering, but STEM in general, is because we live in a world, especially right now. This video that you're watching right now was made in 2011. So that was before TikTok, before Instagram blew up, and before even Facebook blew up. Facebook was kind of like already blowing up back then. But, my point is here is that there's a big push for just going after money and going after making millions and then getting Lambos. And when you push that on social media and young kids or young people see this, of course they're going to be attracted to this. It's very appealing. It's very visual. You see the cars, you see the money, you see the lifestyle, and so of course this is going to heavily influence the younger generation. And unless they really know they want to go for a STEM field, they're going to be influenced and kind of encouraged to go the way to make the most amount of money in the least amount of time. And so they're not even going to consider or even think about majoring in something that, you mean I'm going to go 4 years to college and then I'm going to learn about engineering and STEM and all this stuff and go get a job? Oh, that's just like nasty, man. And so this is just a perspective. I'm trying to be objective here on what I see and what I observe. And I think that there's a lot of people that would rather go and make money or manage other people's money and get quote unquote rich that way or make a living that way than going out and learning about math and science and physics. Because as Neil was just saying, most people shy away from doing the hard stuff, you know? And so this is just a perspective, just, you know, this is just an observation, something that I've seen in the last couple of years. And not only that, but also a couple of years ago, and trust me, this is the last thing I'm going to mention here, so just hear me for a second. Dr. Michio Kaku wrote a book called Physics of the Future. And in that book, he explains how young people nowadays are opting for more money-driven careers per se, when it comes to either going to financial advisor or banking or these things that are going to, or investing, right? These things that are going to make them quick money, as opposed to going to learn STEM or math or engineering. And because it's just less appealing. The lifestyle is not as glamorous. And again, unless you really want to get into that field and you know that you want to do that since you're a kid, then it's going to be very difficult. All right. So that's basically the video that I wanted to share with you guys today. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you think about STEM and why you think more people don't go into STEM. And why did you get into STEM fields? Like, why are you doing engineering? Why are you doing math? What are you doing science in general? And with all that being said, if you have any comments, leave them below. Consider subscribing, like the damn video. Peace.